Buffalo defense, but Detroit was home. Stafford looked pretty poor. In fact, in 3 of his last 4 games, he's looked pretty bad. His yardage is high, in part because of Calvin Johnson and Golden Tate. But his TDs, I think he's got 4 TDs and 4 interceptions in the last 4 games. You're not going to be able to get it done, as a fantasy quarterback, if you've got Stafford on your team putting up 4 TDs and 4 interceptions in 4 weeks. So he's the biggest loser in all this, and I would encourage people who have Stafford. Obviously, you have to play him against Minnesota. Minnesota has a terrible defense. Mm-hmm. You have to temper expectations. This is not a guy who's going to blow you away with 30 fantasy points because Golden Tate and Eric Ebron cannot do it alone.
I agree. BJ Rudell, Fantasy Football for Winners, live on the Sports Fix. Here's a guy I told my son. He said, Bale, I don't know if he's going to listen to me or not, but I don't want nothing to do with anybody on the Jets offense right now. Eric Decker. You don't have enough problems with the injury issues already, and then throw into that, who's going to throw him the ball? We don't know what's going on. Rex Ryan's going to be fired here. I mean, everything is just really starting to bottle up there for the Jets. Where are you at with Eric Decker?
Eric Decker, it's a mess. I think it happens when teams look at how a guy plays, when he plays on a team with a great quarterback, and then expect him to play just as well on a team with a not-so-great quarterback. And it's no wonder that, Decker with injuries, no one could predict that, but Decker's just not going to, even healthy, Decker's not going to be the same player, anywhere close to the same player that he was in Denver. I think it was a huge mistake by the Jets. I think they have a lot more problems. They need a franchise quarterback, and a franchise quarterback can make a lot of people look better. I'm not knocking Decker entirely. I mean, he's getting a ton of targets, and, he does have a couple touchdowns, but he's not going to be that every week fantasy starter, even when he is healthy. There's no one in that offense except maybe Chris Ivory, and if you're desperate, worth it, because it's the same thing in Jacksonville's offense. What's becoming very clear, when you have a team that has so much trouble scoring, you're shooting yourself in the foot when you start that person, because what you're saying is, I need yards. I'm probably not going to get touchdowns. A touchdown's worth 60 yards in most standard scoring leagues.
Yep.
So if you're already saying this team probably won't score this week, or if they do score, it's probably not going to go to my guy, then you're giving up 60 yards in essence. And you're hoping then that they can make up all their ground, in the air or on the ground, depending on their position. That means they need about 90, 100, 110 yards to give you the quality that you expect of a player that, that tier. So, Decker, I don't think he's going to continue, even when he comes back, continue to put up a touchdown every other game. I think he's going to start to regress as the team. Really, Geno Smith has shown regression, and Michael Vick can't get it done. I just think Decker is a huge sell high while you can kind of guy.
All right. I'll tell you, when he left Denver, I said, you're nuts, man. And then you're going to go into that zoo over there? Hey, more power to you. That was one of those cases where I'm not saying a guy read the highlights and got all into his own hype, but he saw the dollar signs too. Hey, man, easy for me to say until somebody's offered me that kind of money too. But I'm like, man, it would take more than just money to get me to walk away from a wide receiver friendly situation that I had set up there in my previous locale, where I'm coming from. But hey, he did what he had to do, and now he's sitting there in the middle of the Jet circus. Good luck to him. One more.
I'll bet you and I. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'll bet you and I would rather make $2 million a year and win games playing with the best quarterback of our generation than make $6 million a year, $8 million a year, and lose games. I mean, winning has to matter to these guys, and it's a shame when they give up so much for a team that really didn't have a chance from the start. But anyway, I digress.
But that's it, too. You didn't even go, so it's not like you went to Seattle. You went to somewhere else that had another shot. You went to, one of these other teams. You went to the Jets. I mean, I could have told you how that was going to end up before it did. I mean, when's the last time a free agent went to the Jets and it worked out well for them, man? I mean, it's disaster stories, man. So, anyways, last injury-related one, I know a lot of people high this week, for the next few weeks, actually, probably going to be at least a 3-week plug-and-play. Andre Williams with Rashad Jennings out for the Giants.
Yeah. Williams is a special player. He's a guy who could start on a bunch of teams. Smart people with deep benches drafted him and held on to him. with the understanding that Jennings is, I think he's 29 years old, has never been in a position where he's had this much weight on his shoulders, except I guess last year. But he's certainly not a proven commodity. This is a guy who's more of a journeyman running back who got a chance to really show what he could do. But I think durability has been an issue with him for a while. Andre Williams is a truly talented running back, good goal line back, and I think plays very well with this offense. I would be shocked if Andre Williams doesn't take advantage of this situation, and I would be shocked if Rashard Jennings comes back and has anything more than a timeshare when he does. So that's the risk when a guy you have gets hurt. You have to weigh whether or not the replacement is at risk of taking over the job. Because if they take over the job, the guy you drafted in the third round and have held on to and rebuffed trade offers for is now worthless or next to worthless. That's the risk you get. I have Mark Ingram in one of my leagues. I'm not worried. When he comes back, Kyrie Robinson is going to step aside. Ingram is the better running back. Most people realize that. It's not the same case when it comes to Andre Williams and Rashard Jennings.
And you know what? I'm one of those cases that you talk about giving up too early. I had Andre Williams. As a matter of fact, I think he may have been my last draft pick, somewhere near the end of the draft. I had Andre Williams. I said, you know what I like? And you know why? It was because, what was it? The first preseason Monday Night Football game, and it was against the starting defense. And I can't remember who the Giants played, but Williams was just chewing up some yards, alternating carries with, I remember what it was, but Williams was spotlighted, and he ran with his legs just charging. I said, that kid can run, man.
Wow.
And I made a note, and you may have also said something. I can't remember specifically, but I remember I had him, but I didn't keep him long because he wasn't doing anything. You know, when I was in the middle of, them first couple of weeks, you're trying to flesh out your roster and figure out what to do, and he was not part of the discussion. So, unfortunately, I let him go way early, but he did not look like he was going to get a significant opportunity there until the last couple of games when he started up in those reps. So, that's one that I missed out on there, unfortunately. But that's
if I can add one quick thing, there's another tandem, Ryan Matthews and Brandon Oliver. Ryan Matthews out for 2-3 more weeks potentially. Brandon Oliver.
I got Oliver in one of my leagues, not the Sports Fix league. Nice, in my other league, I got him because I said, man, I think this guy could be like a Darren Sproles, man, not just running, but catching passes too.
Yeah, he lit it up. I mean, there's no other way to say it. He had an Arian Foster type game with 180 total yards and 2 scores. And he did it against the Jets, and he's got a great matchup, against Oakland this weekend. But I want to caution people again. This is a case where Ryan Matthews is instantly a buy low kind of guy. People who have Ryan Matthews are probably pretty nervous that Brandon Oliver is going to take over the starting job. And my attitude is Ryan Matthews will still have a major role when he gets back. There's no reason to think that a guy rushed for 1,200 yards last year. And has always been kind of the franchise running back for San Diego as long as he's been healthy, that he's going to suddenly take a back seat to Brandon Oliver. So I want to caution people, anyone who does not have Ryan Matthews and desperately needs a running back, and that goes for you, John Manasco, make a trade for Ryan Matthews because you have nothing to lose at this point. And the guy who has Ryan Matthews might be just scared enough to give him up on the cheap.
That's a good piece of advice. Speaking of good pieces of advice, MJD, my man, told me to dump him. He has 6 points, not last week, all season. 6 points so far for Maurice Jones-Drew there. And he definitely, luckily it didn't hurt me. It didn't cost me anything. I think I had him on my team for a week perhaps or something like that. But it was a risk. I thought, okay, well, maybe he's got, he's always been traditionally, he's been all right, but this ain't the year for traditional Maurice Jones-Drew. And I'm glad you told me to dump him because I may have waited a few more weeks before I realized it and said, what am I doing with this guy here? So you saved me a couple of weeks of angst there. Is that just nothing happening there for him? Oakland, those teams that are a mess. Now you're going to get to that part of the season where the Jacksonvilles, the Oaklands, for so many years, Cleveland would have been in this category too, where their season falls apart and all of a sudden they become sieves for fantasy points on the other side. And, defenses give up those big games against guys and stuff like that. You're going to start hitting that point of the season here. Now, before we go, a couple of, give me anybody that you think your keys, man. You got to start or you got to sit this guy. I know me, one that I, looking at, first off, don't play any Cowboys this week. I don't like to play anybody that's going to Seattle in any part of it. But who do you got? Sit, start, must play kind of guys. I did add Justin Hunter. Matter of fact, I switched out Jordan Matthews as my flex guy this week for Justin Hunter. I've liked him. I've kept him on the bench. He busted out against Cleveland last week, but he's got Jacksonville this week. I think he's going to go to town.
Yeah, it's about time they gave him a chance. And, just when people are starting to give up on Kendall Wright and Justin Hunter, they're both relevant again. The running game is still, I think, a mess. But this is the week when you want to start those guys, against the Jacksonville defense. It couldn't be much worse. I would stay away from guys who are kind of flashes in the pan a little bit. I'm not saying Larry Donald's a flash in the pan, but he was big. I've written about him on my blog. I warned people before this past Sunday's game not to start Larry Donald coming off his 3 TD game, and sure enough, he got 0 catches for 0 yards. The ascendance of Odell Beckham, along with Ruben Randall and Victor Cruz, makes Donald no better than the number 4 option in that offense. Maybe 5th if you add in Preston Parker. So people need to realize that sometimes you just take the points and you got to cash out. And I think Donald is one of those guys. As far as some of the players who've been underperforming, I would still want to start LaShawn McCoy. I would encourage people not to bench him. He got one of his linemen back last week. He's getting another key starting lineman back in a few weeks. I think it's only a matter of time as the offensive line that they have plays a little better together, learns how to play better together. McCoy is going to go back to being McCoy, and I'd hate to see people bench a guy like that. And I alluded to Eric Ebron earlier in the show, and with Golden Tate as the number 1 receiver of Calvin Johnson sits, I got to believe that Ebron's going to play some kind of role. If you're desperate for a tight end in your game coming up this week, I think you could do a lot worse than a guy like Ebron, who I think will be a top 10 tight end in week 6.
Yeah, for sure. You know what? 1-2, I noticed this week, I've got the Lions defense going against Minnesota. Anybody for the rest of the season, I would if you're doing the week-to-week defense, line up whoever's defense is going against Minnesota. They have already had 2 in the first 5 weeks where they've given up like 25 points to the opposing defense. With Ponder there, it's only going to be even worse. You don't have AP. We know everything that's going on there with Minnesota, but matter of fact, I didn't even have. I picked up the Lions. They were on the street a couple of weeks ago, and they've exploded. Nice. Yeah, they've moved the last few weeks up into I think they're 3rd ranked right now in points scored. But I picked them up specifically for this week 2 weeks ago, going, oh man, the Lions are available with Minnesota coming up, and Green Bay just torched them. So there's my pickup there.
That's good thinking there. That's great.
This is you, man. You have got. I look at fantasy football, and I'm not just saying this because you're on the show. I really do look at it completely different. I mean, I looked at it I can't even explain it. And it's definitely from dealing with you, man. If for nothing else, I can't sound like an idiot every week, so I've got to do even more research than I normally would do here, so I can keep up with you the best I can. So, thank you very much for being with us. Oh, absolutely. I'm glad to have you, man. It's a ton of fun. And, by the way, John answered you back there, as you saw on Twitter. He said, I pretty much already knew what you were going to tell me to do there. So there we go. Thank you, guys. And by John there, as I've told several of you, and I know sometimes people do, tweet with BJ at BJ Rudell on Twitter, game day. Ask him questions about what you may think or who should I start last minute. And I'm sure BJ will gladly answer those for you guys as well.
Good stuff, J-Rock. Great talking with you, man.
My man, good conversation. Have a great week, a great fantasy week. We'll catch up next week as we reach the halfway point for most people.
Right on. Take care.
You too. BJ Rudell, author of Fantasy Football for Winners. Tweet with them at BJ Rudell. Find him on Facebook at Fantasy Football for Winners. We're going to take a break, come back. Final segment of the show coming up next. Don't go anywhere. here on the Sports Fix. How do you get suspended in the preseason? Some basketball players did. We'll talk about that. Wrap things up. Coming up next here on the Fix.
Booming with a trunk of funk. All the jealous punks can't stop the dunk. Coming from the school of hard knocks, some perpetrate. They drink Clorox, attack the black because I know they lack exact the cold facts, and still they try to Xerox. The leader of the new school, uncool, never played the fool, just made the rules. Remember, there's a need to get alarmed. Again, I said I was a time bomb.